Hey, okay, so today I'm talking about the 10 things that you should know before moving to Sydney. These are things that I wish I knew before I moved here, and they shocked me quite a lot when I discovered them. A couple of them I knew, well, I found out when I lived in Perth, but I thought I'd still add them to the list because they're still relevant if this is your first time living in Australia. So anyway, so the first one I'm going to get started with is the weather. Sydney is not all sunshine and rainbows, although there are rainbows because it rains quite a lot. So it's actually currently raining outside now, despite the fact it's November. So, I mean, we have been quite lucky and had a lot of blue skies and sunshine recently, but still, it shocked me a lot to discover that Sydney is a lot wetter than Perth and a lot wetter than I imagined. I naively thought that Sydney would be very similar in weather to WA, and I was so wrong. So last summer was my first summer in Sydney, and it was so wet. It rained every day for weeks, and it was so wet and so humid that my leather shoes grew mold on them, like proper fluffy mold, as in my ballet pumps had like a layer of fluffy mold on them, and I had to throw them away, and it was horrific. It was awful because the thing with Sydney is it's so humid and so wet that things can't dry in time because there are no radiators and no heaters, whereas in the UK, because it's obviously wet a lot in the UK, we have radiators that you can dry clothing and shoes on. Here they don't have those, so if things are damp or wet, they're going to stay damp. They are not going to dry until the sunshine comes out and you can put them outside. And sometimes that could be weeks away. I mean, last summer, to be fair, it was an unlucky summer, and it was like the wettest summer for like 20 years or something. But I spoke to my colleagues and I was like, does it often rain this much? And a lot of them were like, yeah, the summers are quite wet here, which sucks. Anyway, also, winter is very cold here. We have an air conditioning unit in our house, which is just up there, and luckily it also blows out hot air, so that's okay. But upstairs we do not have that, and so during the winter I was sleeping with 2 duvets, thick winter pyjamas and a dressing gown, and I was still cold, and I had to get my mum to send my dressing gown to me because it was so cold. It was awful. And I had like my full-on thick winter coat that I use in the UK in winter. It was depressing. Anyway, moving on, the next thing is lockout laws. I was not aware of this before I moved to Sydney. Sydney has lockout laws. In certain suburbs in the city and in the city itself, the clubs and bars close at 2 AM and you're not allowed in after midnight. So basically, forget about doing a bar crawl or a club crawl or whatever we do in London. You can't do that here. If you want to go out for a night out, you have to decide by 11 PM where you want to go, because then you have to get inside that bar or pub or club before midnight, otherwise you're not allowed in. And once you're in there, you're stuck in there until 2 AM. No flitting between clubs, none of that, no. Once you're in, but then even if it's an amazing night, you can't stay in there until 5 AM and then leave at 5 and stumble out and go to get some like kebabs or McDonald's or something. You get thrown out at 2 AM. 2 AM. I struggled a lot. I mean, you get used to it and you find clubs that do open later, but they tend to be the gay bars and the gay clubs. And I'm straight and I'm looking for straight men and they are not in those gay bars. So yeah. And then after lockout laws, there are also alcohol restrictions. So in Australia, and this isn't just Sydney, this is Perth as well, from midnight they're not allowed to serve shots or double servings of alcohol in mixed drinks. So even if it's 12:01, they will refuse because they will claim, I don't know if this is true or not, maybe it is, if it is, I'm sorry, but they will say that they're on camera and that if they get caught they will lose their job. So you have to basically stock up on all your shots and all of your double mixed drinks before midnight. And even if it's like a top shelf whiskey, they will literally serve it to you and say, which mixer would you like with that? And it's like, no, none thanks. And then they're like, no, you have to have a mixer. So if past midnight, if you want a top shelf whiskey, you have to have it with a mixer. That's not how you drink whiskey. So yeah, that really shocked me a lot. And it still shocks me now, especially when I'm drunk and I just want that Jägermeister. Yeah, classy. So classy. Another thing that really annoys me, that I feel everyone should know before they come here, especially if you're from the UK, is the extreme lack of recycling. In England, we are big on recycling. We have different coloured boxes for different types of like cardboard, bottles, plastic, cans. In Australia, it all goes in one bin, but like at work, we don't have recycling bins at work, and when you're out and about, places don't really, it just, no one recycles here, and it's really shocked me. And I was actually talking to an American friend about this, and she was also shocked because she said that in America they recycle quite a lot, and which shocked me because I wasn't sure if America did recycle a lot, but apparently they do. And so it's not just me. An American who lives here now is also completely shocked by the lack of recycling. So yeah, I mean, if you're from somewhere that doesn't recycle anyway, then you don't really need to know this. But if you're from England or somewhere else in Europe that recycles everything, it's something you need to be prepared for. I feel terrible every time something can't go in a recycling bin, because you're only allowed to put certain things in here, and it's very limited. And then also that leads me on to the use of plastic bags. Now, I'm not like some kind of eco warrior, but I do like to do my part to look out for the planet, because I've been to the Great Barrier Reef, I've seen the coral bleaching, and it's not pretty. And yeah, you know, like when you're scrolling through Facebook quite casually and then you see that photo of like a turtle that's been stuck in like a beer, you know, those beer can circular cylinder plastic wrapper things, scrolling through Facebook casually, like looking at all your non-friends things, and then you see this like turtle that's been like deformed by a piece of plastic, and you're like, oh shit, that's me, that's my fault, I did that. So I am quite big on recycling and plastic bags and stuff. And in Australia, so actually I've got one here. So I have like, you know, like the jute carrot bags that in England you're encouraged to purchase for like a couple of pounds and reuse. Here, although they sell them in supermarkets, people don't really use them. And every time I go to the supermarket and do my weekly shop, I take all my bags with me. I even take plastic bags with me for things like fish and chicken and whatever. And every time I get to the checkout, I give them my bags. I'm like, oh, I've got bags with me. And then they look at me like I'm crazy and they're like, oh, do you not want us to use plastic bags? And I'm like, no, that's why I have these bags with me. And that's another thing, in supermarkets here, they pack your shopping for you, which is weird. Like, I can pack my own shopping, I don't need you to do it for me. And if you try and do it, they get really funny about it and they're like, that's my job, what are you doing? It's like, just scan the items, I'll put them in. It really irritates me. But anyway, whatever. Also, another thing that everyone should know is that rent in Sydney is the same price as London. If anything, it's actually more expensive. Like, this house where I live is the same as what it would be in London, which is quite depressing, because when you're in London you're like, oh, this is so expensive, and then you move to Australia expecting it to be a little bit cheaper, not much, but a little bit. No, it's just as expensive, if not more. Yep. Anyway, also food shopping, going back to the whole food shopping supermarket thing, food shopping is also very expensive. I mean, they don't really do basics ranges here, not that I buy basics range anyway, because I did that when I was at university and I'm still scarred by the taste of the Sainsbury's Basics Greek yogurt. but food shopping is extremely expensive in Australia, especially cheese and meat and vegetables. Vegetables are so expensive, and cheese, I'm sorry, but it's like $12 for a block of cheese. $12. And you know what, also, this isn't just Sydney, it's Australia in general, but a few years ago, because a lot of the fruit and veg is seasonal here, and like they grow it here and it depends on weather and stuff, so this is no longer a fact, so it's fine, don't panic. But about 6 years ago, there was like a huge storm. There were big tropical storms up north in North Australia, and when I was in Perth visiting my friends, like a bunch of bananas, $18, 18 $18 for a bunch of bananas. It was insane. Luckily, they're no longer $18 because I'm guessing the storms haven't been as bad since then, but yeah, that's how wildly the prices of food can fluctuate in Australia and Sydney. So I mean, again, this is more of an Australia in general thing, but they have different names for absolutely everything. It's literally like having to learn another language, and I'm quite lucky because I learned all this 10 years ago when I was in school, and all the other kids thought it was hilarious that I was calling things different to them, and it was like, oh, I'm the new kid and I've got all these words wrong. So if you're moving here, then you should probably look up what different words are in Australia. Actually, I might do a separate video on this because it is quite funny, but there are things like Australians call sheets and bedding Manchester, as in the place, as in the city Manchester. That is what they call sheets and bedding. Crazy. I mean, why would you do that? Just call it bedding or sheets. Can I get some sheets, please? What are those? Manchester? Oh yeah, sure, they're over here. Fuck off. And also, a duvet is not a duvet here. A duvet is a doona. Doona. What even is that word? I don't know. Also, the postal service is pretty shit. In the UK, you can send something to someone over the other side of the country, first class, and it'll be there within like 2 days, a day or two. Here, you're lucky if you get it in a couple of weeks, to be honest. And then even like sending things from abroad, so every so often I send my family postcards, like I send my grandparents postcards, just because my grandmothers love to, you know, get something old-fashioned. So I regularly send them postcards, and they regularly take 3 to 4 weeks to arrive. Last month I was in New Zealand. I sent them a postcard from New Zealand. It took like a week to get there, less than a week to get there. New Zealand's further away. Why can't the Australian Postal Service be like that? Seriously, ridiculous. Honestly, 3 weeks for a postcard to arrive from Australia to England. So stupid. Also, as well with post, this is my final 10th point on this list that you all need to be aware of before you move here. Online shopping is not the same. So actually, some places don't even deliver. So IKEA, I think actually I read something the other day that IKEA is finally allowing online shopping in Sydney, but until like recently you could not buy something from the IKEA website and get it delivered. And H&M for some reason don't do online delivery in Australia, even though they've got loads of stores here. And also, if you do order online, very few retailers offer free returns. Like it's only ASOS really that offer free returns. Everyone else you have to pay for out your own pocket. And with the price of post in Australia, it's, okay, get this. For me to send, last Christmas I sent my grandma just like a little card and a little magnet from when I'd gone to the Middle East, and it cost me $22 to send like a tiny magnet that was like this big. It wasn't even that heavy. $20, that's like £12. that was, oh my gosh, it's so expensive here. So if you buy something online, good luck returning it, because it'll probably cost you more than the item cost originally. So yeah. But anyway, I mean, I do love Sydney, don't get me wrong. I'll do something soon where I'm like, Sydney is the best, it's amazing, here's what I love about Sydney. But, and I mean, not all of these things are terrible. They're just things you need to be aware of before you move here, because, I mean, the weather thing was the biggest shock for me. I was not expecting the amount of rain we have here, and it's raining right now, and it's November. So yeah, I think that's enough complaining from me today. So thank you for watching, and do subscribe, or not, or do, please do, or comment below if you have any questions, if you disagree with me, if you agree with me, if you have anything else that you think people should know about before they move to Sydney, anything I've missed. Yeah, I've just realised that I didn't include anything about cockroaches or spiders. There's a lot of cockroaches in Sydney. A lot. But apart from that, it's a great place. So anyway, bye.